very welcome, by the way, the Grand Social. I'm Paul McLuhan, and it's an honour, really, to be hosting the first of what's going to be 6 up-close and personal events like these, listening party events like these. And it's all in association with Hot Press, so I want to thank them right at the top. And there's going to be 6 of them in total, all celebrating classic Irish albums. We're going to start with Villagers and Awayland. Yes? You knew that bit, right? And if the release of Becoming a Jackal in 2010 announced the arrival proper of a serious and significant talent, then certainly Awayland, which came out 3 years later, pretty much confirmed that he was here to stay. And he made good on that by releasing what has now been a string of, I'm sure you'll agree, really amazing, shape-shifting albums over the course of the last few years. And of course, as recently as August with Fever Dreams, which has been enjoying rightly, deservedly, pretty much universal acclaim. And the gentleman that I'm talking about, of course, is Mr. Conor O'Brien. Is he here? Please welcome him to the stage. Conor O'Brien, Villagers.
Going.
You made it.
Oh yeah.
You found your way.
Good to see you.
The labyrinthine,
What's
yeah.
the crack?
Of course, the album opens with My Lighthouse, right? So
Yeah.
what maybe some of you don't know is we're actually going to get a few live performances
Yeah. I'm gonna sing some songs.
from the album tonight. But before we get to that, so Awayland, 3 years after a pretty intensive period, I would imagine, after Becoming a Jackal. A lot of playing, a lot of touring.
Yeah. Lots of playing, lots of touring. Yeah.
So where was, I mean, people talk about the difficult second album, or because I often think, although obviously as an artist,
this is the interview now.
yes,
Okay.
we've started. As an artist, you want, obviously your work to reach a wide audience, and you want it to be successful, but it happened so fast
Yeah.
with Jackal, didn't it? I mean, it just, even before the album came out, there was such a buzz about it. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember actually arguing with Jim Carroll about who was going to get to play which track
Yeah.
from the album on the radio. Honestly, we were kind of, well, you're playing that one, I'll play this one. So where was your, can you describe sort of where you were at in yourself, where your head was at when you sat down to, I mean, how did you approach it? What was the process? I think I read somewhere that you actually made quite complex demos that then...
Yeah, the demos were like, I mean, it was a labor of, I wouldn't say a labor of love, it was a labor of obsession, and it was even more work than I'd put into, I mean, I just remember kind of, it was my everything making this record, and in a way that, I don't know if that's a good thing sometimes, you have to kind of, I think I was using it a little bit as some sort of crutch or something, and I don't know, there was a lot going on with this one, and I wasn't sort of fully conscious or something. It was sort of it was kind of an obsessional everything to me, kind of, so, yeah.
Was it almost an unhealthy kind of thing?
Oh, definitely, 100%, yeah. I mean, it was, I'd spent the last kind of few years kind of playing this music, and like, yeah, it was just crazy. It was a crazy kind of, what was the question again?
I'd heard or I'd read somewhere that you actually made quite detailed demos that then kind of when you took it to the band, you ended up sort of stripping layers away, as opposed to what's normally the opposite of that, or the reverse of that with
Yeah, well, we didn't strip layers away. We just like, when we got to Donegal, with Tommy and the rest of the band, like, we just made slightly posher versions of the demos, and the guys like put like 120% into making it sound as polished and amazing as it sounds, kind of thing. And So there was lots of layers of work that had been put into it, and there was lots of layers of emotion that had been put into it, and there was lots of layers of loss and lots of layers of just everything. So yeah, it was pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're going to listen to the whole thing in its entirety, but for the first song, we're going to get a live rendition. If you assume the position, please. Conor O'Brien and My Lighthouse, folks.
So this is a song called My Lighthouse, and it's about conversing with the dead. It's a little light show tune number for you guys. You are needing a friend for to follow, for to fend, and I haven't got a clue if I'm getting through to you, my lighthouse. In the violent moonlight, I am searching the tide in a vessel in the storm, and you're the kind host in the port, my lighthouse. And we'll be there to right our wrongs in the time it took to write this song, and we'll beat the ghost with our bare hands, and we'll skin the corpse, and we'll love and laugh, and we'll dance all everlasting day, and you'll sing to me everything I meant to say, and we'll drink to the gentle, the meek, and the kind, and the funny little flaws in this earthly design, from the reaper band to the sunderband. I will heed your call from the dust and sand, and I'll save all my stories for thee. Save all my stories for thee.
That was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, because I think, you didn't have much warning on the whole playing live set of things.
Yeah, I only heard today I was playing songs. But I can play as many songs as you want.
But yeah. So yeah, that song, you just alluded to some of the themes in it. It does seem to sort of set out the stall for the rest of things that recur thematically, motifs,
Totally.
I guess, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go on about it, but like I lost my sister
course.
very suddenly, like around the time of the first Villagers album, and then I went and toured for like 2 years, and it just, I think this album was like a purging. It was like something where I was like, I'm not dealing with this at all, so I'm going to make art, and I'm going to make something which is all about my confusion and existential, all the questions that I have all of a sudden in this new life that I found. So that song was like a breakthrough for me. It was something that I felt like, okay, I can write about this now, So.
There is a recurring, and it kind of progresses as an idea, I think, throughout the album of I guess, triumphing, or if not triumphing, then at least, you know, getting through it, and kind of how you do that, and how you sort of overcome this.
Totally, and or not, or be comfortable with not
Yeah.
overcoming, and be comfortable with, you know, not having answers, and that kind of all that interesting stuff, which art is good at figuring out, you know. So that's yeah.
And looking back on it now, did you feel a catharsis on? Was it just in the process, or was it getting it out into the world?
Did I feel cathartic making it? I just mostly felt frustrated. Actually, I was usually pretty. I mean, the whole process of making, you know, music is quite. It's kind of annoying, you know. It's usually very uncomfortable, and if you haven't got what you want out of it, you're really angry, and you take that into the world, and you know, you can't function until you've really figured out the puzzle that you're trying to, you know, put together and stuff. So I wouldn't say it was cathartic. I'd say it was I don't know, what's the opposite of cathartic?
I really should have looked that up before I asked the question.
What would that be? Oh, we could spell cathartic backwards. Rat.
And I guess when it's all on you, as you know, Villagers is ostensibly you, in a sense. When you're writing, it's I guess it's more difficult to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
You don't have someone else there to go.
Well, I did. I mean, I always do. You don't when you're in your little writing zone, but it is a very, you know, it's a social thing, and it's you try and test it on everyone around you, and your band and everyone. So it's you know, but the actual creation of these songs was there was a lot of being alone, closing the doors, making the songs, and then maybe emailing some early demos to the guys who were playing in the band, and to the manager, and to friends, and all that stuff. But it was, I really, I value so much that time alone, because you can really sort through things and figure it all out, you know. And so yeah, that's what kind of this is like a document of all that time for me. Yeah,
and you, of course, you were healing in a very literal sense as well.
Yeah, maybe.
The next two tracks, we'll take them together, back to back, because otherwise I think it's going to get a little bitty.
Is this where we listen to the actual album version?
Yes.
And do this while everyone's...
Okay. That's right, Connor.
This is going to be so cool.
I was looking forward to it.
No, I am. I'm joking.
Earthly Pleasure seems to have, well, talk about it. I mentioned shape-shifting earlier in a completely different context, but it's a kind of the character in Earthly Pleasure, I still haven't really worked it out. Is it a metaphor for some sort of rebirth? Is he time traveling? What's going on?
Well, he's actually based on a guy called Billy Pilgrim, who was in a book called Slaughterhouse-Five by...
Oh, Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was really influential to a lot of this album, because it was... Well, it was Kurt Vonnegut's way of kind of dealing with him surviving the bombing of Dresden in World War II. So he was put down in a bunker, which was an old slaughterhouse, and that's how he survived, and the Allied bombing. And then and this book is kind of from the perspective of a fictional character called Billy Pilgrim, who's kind of based on his life. And it time travels. It's kind of like Third Policeman in that way. It's like it goes back and forth in time, and it plays with space and everything. And then he gets aliens abduct him. I think they're called the Tralfamadorians, and they don't see time in a linear way. The aliens, they see time like they see the past and the present and the future all as one eternal thing that happens in the same space. So to them, death means nothing, and that was intriguing to me. And so
you were relating to that in just as a guess, something that spoke to you about your own mindset at the time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where this song came from. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's have a listen to Earthly Pleasure, totally different thing. Earthly Pleasure, and also The Waves, two songs from Awayland by Villagers, coming up right now. This is an opportune moment, Conor,
Yes.
to put to you the first question. I believe this gentleman is here this evening, Liam O'Keenan. I don't know if I've got your name right there, Liam. I hope I have. Yeah, you're there? Good man. Yeah, rather aptly, because I was about to kind of allude to this myself at the conclusion of Waves, so we'll do it now. What made you decide to bring in more electronic synth, keyboards stuff into the arrangements for some of the songs in Awayland compared to the more acoustic, I guess that's what you mean, approach on the Jackal?
Very good question. I think it was, well, that particular song was just, there's a guy called Matty Kilmurray, who's a very great lighting engineer, who was our lighting guy at that time. And I was just over his house, and he just said to me, do you want a loan of this weird little rack synthesizer? And I said yes, and then took it back to the house in my studio, and it just had certain settings, and I think that beep, 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 beep was one of the settings, and I just kind of dug it, and I hadn't really gotten into synthesizers yet, so I just thought, I'll just use all of the presets, and yeah, and that was that, and I just looped that little preset bit, and it kind of, well, no, I wasn't. I don't think I'd written the Waves at that point. I think the lyrics were written to that loop, so it was kind of written to that sound kind of thing, and only afterwards I kind of figured out the acoustic kind of version. But yeah, that's the medium answer.
Yeah. And to get to the song and those lyrics, The Waves, I rather lazily just used to think, oh, it's an environmental kind of thing, but The Waves, of course, is a kind of a, waves doesn't necessarily have to mean the waves in the sea, does it? I mean, what are the waves?
Yeah, well, it kind of does for this. Well, waves they're things that they happen in the ocean because of
I knew that.
the moon and the sun and the magnetic and the wind and all that stuff. But it was kind of a way into talking about a sort of all omnipresent, omniscient, breathing lung that is bigger than all of us, and it kind of went back to the Tralfamadorians again.
Those guys again.
Yeah, the aliens who kidnapped Billy Pilgrim, in that they didn't really believe in free will, which was the other thing about them, and they just laughed at the idea of free will. And I think around that time there was that crazy tsunami in Japan as well, and I think I was just kind of putting those things together, and that's kind of what The Waves was. I mean, a lot of the lyrics are kind of from an uncaring eye. They're from an all-seeing eye, which was a fun thing it was a fun game to play on a notebook kind of thing. So.
And had you set out to do that? I mean, at some point, did you decide I'm going to have this perspective for these songs as an album, or is that something you came to an understanding of after the fact?
I don't know if it's really. I don't think it was very conscious. I think it's just you have to do something. So the thing. I mean, that's why I'm always confused by people rating your stuff or whatever, criticizing, because there's no other choice when you make things. You kind of have to make the thing which is appearing to you, and that was especially one of those songs. So no. Answer.
Do you find that your understanding of your own songs, though, does change much with the passage of time?
Oh yeah. I listened to this album today. I was walking around, and I was very intrigued in a way that I felt like it wasn't. It was an album by somebody else, which was interesting. So that's funny.
The next song, yeah, Judgment Call. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yes.
Before we get to it, because we were talking about this. We were talking about this backstage, folks. Very pertinent.
This is my Tin Pan Alley song.
Yeah, it's a big old production. It really is. But it very pertinent back then, and I guess it's only become more. I mean, speaking of how you kind of receive work given the passage of time, I think this one has only become more relevant, really, hasn't it, over the last few years?
I think so. Yeah. Ooh, interesting. Well, yeah. I mean, at the time, I think I was writing about groupthink and people just believing things because that's perhaps the narrative they were brought up in and grew up with, you know. And I think I might have been attributing that a bit more to people wearing robes in lovely old buildings. And I listened to it today and I was like, actually, that's just as applicable to anything that's happening on the internet now. And, you know, I think a lot of religions are born in very sneaky ways, and that's this song kind of, reminded me of that when I was listening to it today on a nice sunny walk. So.
And one of the reasons it came up was because we were talking about music and being a music fandom, and how I guess it's easy sometimes to see or conclude that maybe music doesn't quite occupy quite a central a position in lives, and particularly younger people's lives, than perhaps it did certainly when I was young, which was a long time before you were. But
not that long.
Well, yeah. What we were saying that it's that tribalism that used to kind of define music back then. Were you a mod? Were you were you an indie kid? Were you a goth? Whatever. And that still exists, of course, but it's kind of been supplanted maybe by more sort of political positions and kind of.
Yeah, I think maybe, but also I actually, you might be right, but also I don't know, because I'm older now. Like, I don't really know what's going on with people who are in their teens and 20s, and I would never ever talk for them, especially in front of cameras. And the internet.
Yeah. I'm a grumpy old man, so I don't.
I'll get there someday.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, it just reminded me, Judgment Call reminded me of this whole thing. You know, people call it echo chambers now, where you just have your own little entrenched point of view, and, you know, the way a lot of discourse is conducted now, of course, so much of it is on platforms like Twitter and whatever. And you don't have to see anything that challenges your worldview, or if you do, you can just insult it and dismiss it.
It's it's very interesting, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
all very interesting what's happening right now.
Yeah. And Judgment Call, I think fairly prescient. So let's give it a listen. I think we'll just listen to Judgment Call with that in mind, and then we'll get to Nothing Arrived. But first, Judgment Call. Why do you call that your Tin Pan Alley song, by the way?
Oh, it's just a cheeky little number, isn't it?
It is.
I don't know, it's kind of up-tempo.
Yeah.
Jazz hands kind of vibe. I've lost the will to judge myself. I don't know, it's kind of Tin Pan Alley, isn't it?
You know, staring into the void kind of way.
Hey.
Speaking of, Nothing Arrived, great single, of course, but got a lot of plays, got a lot of radio plays and stuff like that. Did you know at the time when you came up with Nothing Arrived, you went, oh, that's a good one. They'll like that one.
Actually, I remember coming up with that song, and it was a very slow, kind of lower key, had lots of floor tom, no cymbals, and it was super, super morose and really kind of drippy. And I remember sending it to Richie Egan from Jape. And
Richie, yeah.
And he was really into it, and it kind of had this kind of discordant piano thing, and it sort of mirrored the lyrics in a much more in a way that was quite. It was quite obvious that the music was trying to go into the abyss or something, or there was a lot. So it was like that for quite a while, and then as the recording was getting closer, we were like, oh, that's got 4 chords. Maybe we should just speed it up and make it something that'll actually, like, you know, sell an album, maybe, kind of thing. So put a piano riff on it and sped it up. And a little bit of me was like, oh, I don't know about this. But then also I have this thing where I actually do love music which has a strange contradiction, where there's like upbeat, like Elliott Smith and stuff, where like there's a Beatlesy chord sequence, but the lyrics are all super, super intense. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Let's go for it. And I remember sort of sending that version to everybody, and everybody loved it. But I think Richie was a bit like, oh. And that made me really sad, because I love Richie. But then we played it together as a band, and it really clicked, and it was really enjoyable. And I just remember the recording of that song being one of the more exciting moments of the whole Away Land recording. It was a really amazing kind of togetherness kind of buzz. So
yeah, I think it is always a very that tension between a sort of a sunny, up-tempo kind of feel to it, but the lyrics are actually saying something quite dark. I think that's always very, very interesting in pop music, and I love it when I see it. I go, "That's God, they've done that old trick again. That's good." It is almost. I mean, I say dark, and it almost does come across as a love song to oblivion. But it's maybe that thing you were talking about earlier, where it's almost an accepting of it, but not in a kind of a moribund kind of way. It's an acceptance.
yeah, it's like kind of trying to invoke a feeling of living from some internal place rather than from external directives or something, you know? That feeling of like trying to see when you are doing that and when you're not doing that. And I think that's kind of something to do with authenticity, maybe, in the song. Yeah.
Let's hear it. Nothing arrived. Nothing arrived. It certainly arrives. We're just saying how big that sounds, and of course the band.
Gets super Bon Jovi at the end.
Yeah, there's a lot of climactic dynamics on this album, courtesy of a fine band, of course.
Yeah, wow. Well, that one really came alive in the studio. Yeah, it was just a magic. I remember doing the demo of that. Well, obviously it was the very first fast version demo of it.
Yeah.
But when we finally got into the studio, it was like, this is what that fast version demo was meant to be, and Richie's gonna love it. Yeah. And he kind of liked it.
He came around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a real. There is a striking kind of band feel to this record. Do you think sometimes, because Villagers is so kind of Connor-centric, I guess, that the contributions of the band gets a little overlooked? I mean, did they ever come up to you and go, "Hey"?
No, that's never happened. And you're creating problems right now. I'm not going to have it.
I don't mean in a bad way, but you know, do you feel that maybe
I hope not.
It over-focuses on you? Is that a better way of putting it?
Well, I would always say that. Yeah. I mean, like, especially with this album, it was. I think my intent with this album was to fully disappear finally, and you know, make something where I could just present this piece of art and music to an audience and just be proud of it. And that's the thing that people get and they don't. I just wanted to be that. I didn't want it to be me, you know. And that was kind of, I think that might be why it was so worked on. It was so layered and it was so arranged, and you know, the playing and the music and the propulsion, like the way it rocks out at the end there, and the
Yeah,
way it
brilliant.
rocks out in the next song, and I think all of that was just probably psychologically fueled for various reasons. So, yeah.
Well, you're getting stuff out of your system. Fairly relevant question from a hot press reader from Seeley. So me talking about bands and collaborating with other artists. Is there anyone that you'd love to collaborate with? I guess alive or dead, I suppose.
Whoa, cool. I would love to have sung a song with Elis Regina, the late Brazilian singer. She did a really good version of Aguas de Marcho, which was a really beautiful song written by João Gilberto, I think. Yeah, João Gilberto. And I just, every few weeks I go back to a particular YouTube recording of her playing it on TV in Brazil, and my heart melts every time. And I'd love to sing a song with her. Although if I was even in the same room as her, I probably wouldn't be singing. I'd be crawling on the floor, kind of melting into the ground.
Yeah, I've got a lot of artists that I just couldn't actually be in the same room as. You're of course one of them. And yet here we are.
Cool.
What about anyone from today? Anyone who's still kicking around?
Oh, wow.
Without any obligation, obviously.
No, I don't like anyone today, actually. Bob Dylan always said there's a lot more old artists than there are new, so he's not going to bother with the new ones. So I'll follow him. Bob Dylan, I'd love to play with Bob Dylan.
It was there and you went for it. Fair play. The next song, I think we'll take another 2 tracks at this point, because we will otherwise I think we're going to get behind, and we don't want that. But The Bell, the title track is on the way. We'll talk about the title track after we hear it. But The Bell, very cinematic sort of vibe on that song, I think, and a complex kind of lyric. Can you tell us a bit about what's going on with that?
Yeah, I actually wrote the lyrics. Well, actually, 1 or 2 of the lyrics are from Dave Hederman in The Immediate, which is my previous band.
Of course.
And we were actually singing a version of this song in the sort of final shows of The Immediate. It had different lyrics. Or no, it had the same lyrics, it had different chords and a different rhythm. And but it was, I think I was on drums for it, and Pete was singing and jumping around the place, and it was really cool. It was a very different creature. But I remember asking permission from the guys if I could reuse it for the album, and they very kindly agreed, because it kind of fit into the theme of the album, which was, well, this particular song was about the limits of language, really, I guess, and how language doesn't really fully express all of the depths in all of us, and how complicated we all are and stuff, and I guess this song is kind of about that. And it was, we just totally put on the whole Ennio Morricone thing and made it into a big cinematic epic for the Villagers album, and I'm very glad we did, because it's one of my favorite bits on the record. So
yeah, it's let's have it in all its widescreen glory. The Bell, and also the title track, Away Land.
I just told you that mix cut between 2 different mixes the whole way through, so we couldn't decide on which mix was better. So at certain moments it just keeps cutting between like mix 1 and mix 2, and I thought like that was this really amazing thing, and Paul just said Beatles did it first. Well,
They did. But yeah, a lot of memories flooding back with that track. So the Ennio Morricone thing, but also a band called, maybe a little less obviously, the Silver Apples, which I was surprised you just...
yeah, I was trying to get this Silver Apples vibe with the drums at the end, but we didn't quite, I was trying to mix Spaghetti Western with Silver Apples, post-krautrock, kind of weird. But maybe we created a new genre, which we will name tonight.
Any suggestions? Feel free. Successfully nailing the widescreen cinematic feel there is I just was thinking while that was playing, you'd probably be pretty good at that kind of thing. Is that something you'd ever be interested in, composing for?
Film?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I've never composed directly for film, but some stuff I did with Nico Mooley was used in a film, and it's something that I can. It's just that I don't read music, and I don't. It's a world that I think I'd need to sort of work with people on, because I'm kind of, you have to be able to describe to people, if you're working with orchestras and stuff, you have to be able to write music and describe to them specifically what they're meant to do, and I'd just be like, can you make it more schloopy or something, And that's...
The Beatles did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you make it sound more like an orange, George?
That's true. That's true, but they were the Beatles.
Yeah, that is also true. That is also true.
Are you going to compare me to the Beatles all night long?
Is there anything wrong with that?
Well, it just makes me look infinitely crap.
Okay, I'll never do it again. Awayland, no words here, as it says on the lyric sheet, which again I'm probably wrongly reading two ways. Firstly, there are no lyrics as such. There is a vocal, but there's no lyrics. And does it mean though that in Awayland there are no words?
It's just one of my favorite bits on the album. I always have this feeling when I'm writing words for music that I'm failing the music, that I haven't let the music fully do the thing, that it's meant to do. And this was a letting go. It was like a proper purging of something, and I wanted to just express space, and that's it, just pure space and pure something that was as far away from anything in the material world is what I was going for. And Cormac's string arrangements, Mr. Cormac Curran, just absolutely killed me in this. I remember we did it with the Arco String Quartet in Attica, in Donegal, and just the way it's recorded, the way it's played, I just remember it being so magic on the day. And it was one of those funny moments, because I remember when we were doing, well, I'm not going to say, we did stuff years and years ago with orchestras and stuff, and I always found it really interesting the way you make a piece of music which you've poured your heart into, and then you finally get classically trained players to play on it, and it's the most magic moment of your life. But for them, it's just like, I'm just doing the right note kind of thing, because they're so good. They're just like, they're always, if you get good violin players and viola players and cello players, they always play so beautifully, but as soon as the red light goes off in the recording, they just go. So anyway, I was at Marks and Spencer's today, and I was buying my lunch, and you're like, what the fuck? And you've just had this emotional moment with their, with their performance, and they weren't actually there at all. They were just doing what they've been trained to do. And that was my experience up until this with classical players. And I've nothing against that. That was just, I was really fascinated by that. But this time I remember Claire in Arco just kind of coming into the room and just saying she really felt something from it, even though she also played perfectly. And I just found that really interesting as well, which was cool. So you can kind of hear that in the recording, I think.
I'm sure you can. Let's get a listen. Awayland, title track. Yeah, beautiful stuff. Really is. Gorgeous, wordless title track. Did you have that as, was that already Awayland before, was it kind of named that when you came up with the album title, or did it
I can't remember.
become the album title? I'm just curious, because
I actually can't remember, yeah.
it's funny because it just fits it so perfectly. You go off you lose yourself in that.
Deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just don't know. It's that dancing about architecture thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like talking about music is like dancing about architecture.
I know, that's why we're doing it. That's it, dance.
That's why we're doing it, yeah. I don't know, I can't remember making it, or it just was really, I just remember really enjoying it, and that was a nice, I played it with a 1963 Gretsch hollow-bodied guitar, which I bought when I was playing with Kathy Davey in Austin, Texas in 2006. I remember being in a shop and I was like, I think I have enough money to buy a guitar in a shop. And I was like, no, I can't do this. And then I remember Ross, who was drumming with Villagers for the last few years, he just looked at me and he just went, get the guitar, dude. I was like, I will. And then I brought it home, and that's why that song exists.
Beautiful. I think it's always the right move to get the guitar.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you're going to have to get your guitar now.
Oh,
Smooth.
hello. That was good.
Yoo-hoo.
I was carving my name out of a giant sequoia tree. I was blind to its beauty. Now it's all I can see. See, I've learned how to listen to the phone on TV. They are passing a message that means nothing to me. My vertebrate evolution, easy as ABC. Baby steps from the ocean, feather trails to the sea. Paddlefish to salamander, honeybee to atrophy. I guess I'm losing my trail here, but it takes loss to be free. Now I work in a nightclub at the Burj Khalifa, and I'm blind to its beauty, but it ain't all that I have. And so I'm passing a message like the folks on TV. I guess I'm getting the words out, but they don't come from me. Paddlefish to salamander, honeybee to atrophy. I guess I'm losing my trail here, but it takes loss. Paddlefish to salamander, little girl to atrophy. I guess we're losing our trail here, but it takes loss to be free.
Beautiful stuff. So passing a message, kind of evolutionary, is that a word? Evolutionary sort of imagery on there, what's that all about? More, kind of, more change, more transformation.
Yeah.
We're back to Billy Pilgrim again almost.
Yeah. The Tralfamadorians, it's the aliens. They told me to write the song. Well, I just found it interesting. I don't know. I was like, I wasn't really reading lots of books, but I was reading little bits of things about evolution, and I just thought it was a cool thing to write about. And that's my answer.
And it takes loss to be free. That's a
Yeah,
resonant.
it takes loss to be free. Maybe that was me trying to tell myself something, but I mean, yeah, it's, you know, a lot of, well, there's as you get older, I guess you kind of maybe, you know, find some sort of remnants of wisdom that have been passed down to you and stuff, and what are you meant to do with them? You're meant to, you know, if you don't let them give you a deep sense of humility and a deep sense of a realization of that you're just a continuing, you know, dream in the Tralfamadorians world, and you know, what are you gonna do? You know.
It does kind of thread nicely into Grateful, the song that succeeds it on the album. They do seem to be kind of very complementary to each other. So let's have a listen to Grateful, and we'll have a quick. These are going to have to become quick sort of chats, I think, now as we get further into the evening. You're
Cool.
okay with that? Yeah.
I'll try and zip it.
That's Grateful, and a few of my favourite lines of yours are
Grateful song.
in that song.
Huh?
A few of my favourite of your lines.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cohen-esque.
Actually,
if I might be so bold.
well, there's a funny story about this song. So, I wrote it definitely very influenced by Leonard Cohen, and the initial version was kind of the same finger picking as which song? I can't remember. It's 4 in the morning.
Oh, Famous Blue Raincoat.
Famous Blue Raincoat. And I remember writing it and just thinking, just getting the energy from writing a Cohen song, basically, but then trying to take it somewhere else. And then I spent a long time trying to write it, and I was like, oh, this is just too Leonard Cohen. It's not me, and I can't get away from it sounding like someone trying to copy Leonard Cohen. And then I remember we went to play a show in Sydney, just myself and my sound engineer, so it was a solo gig, and it was one of the hottest days of the year in Sydney, and like people were like frying eggs on the street and stuff, and it was just this crazy Spiegel tent experience, and we were sweating, and I was like, okay, feck it, I'm gonna play this new song, Grateful song, and people are going to enjoy it, and I'm going to realize it's my own song. It's not Leonard Cohen's song, and it's going to be really good. So we played it, and everyone clapped, and it was all nice and everything. And then on the way home, I checked my phone, and there was a review of the gig, and it just said, the gig was really good, except for the absolute like rip-off of Leonard Cohen right in the middle. And I was like, ugh. So then we went back and then I just remember thinking, you know, feck it, I actually believe in these lyrics and these chords, and let's just do this. So we rocked it out a lot more. We brought in a mandolin and a Roland Juno 60, tried to mesh them together in pop music for the first time ever. And it kind of, I kind of dig it. It's kind of rabble-rousing now, but it was a bit of it had a weird birth. Yeah.
Well, you managed to retroactively kind of bury the Cohenism, and I meant that as a compliment,
Well,
not necessarily a comparison. You know,
why would you want to? That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll forever be influenced by his music. So it's like, but sometimes you get a bit too influenced by
over-influenced. Speaking of songs that you kind of had around for a while, the next song on the album, In a Newfound Land, I remember not long after becoming a Jackal, we didn't do a show. Well, you did a show that was part of my radio show in the Workman's Club here in Dublin, and
Yes,
we got a bit of an exclusive. It was in a Newfound Land. Do you have obviously a good couple of years before it found its way onto Away Land? Obviously an important song then if you kind of dig it out and dust it off.
Yeah, I remember writing it on a ferry over to Vancouver Island, and I think the lyrics talk about the waves rippling and rolling outside the window, and we had a crazy. I remember sort of finishing it off a few days later. We had a really, really crazy show on Vancouver Island with in a sort of a shop run by this really cool old hippie guy called Longevity John. And he sold a lot of nose whistles, and he showed us his nose whistles, and we played a show to about 20 people in his I think it was upstairs in his shop, and then we realized they were all just his friends, and we were kind of just playing his party. And yeah, and then I remember finishing the song off the next day, and it was pretty crazy, another song kind of about death and life, and kind of about born in the mild month of May. I don't know. I just feel like I was trying to kind of marry the darkness in the song. So that's it.
What about the nose whistles, though? Did you?
They never made it in, unfortunately.
Okay.
I mean, if
Did you have a go?
No. And if you heard the song, I mean, it would ruin the vibe of the song.
I have a feeling you're right, although I have no idea what a nose whistle sounds like, but I'll take your word for it. Do you have a lot of, do you tend to, actually somebody asked me a question, because that idea of having songs that knock around for a while before they kind of find their home, do you tend to stockpile a lot of songs that way?
Say that again?
Do you tend to stockpile a lot of songs that don't necessarily have a place on an album, and we'll find one at a later point? Because obviously, just to bring things a little more up to date with the dreaded L word, lockdown, have you written like a vast amount of songs because you had very little else to be?
No, not a vast amount of songs, just lots of weird little voice memos and just some ideas, nothing really very concrete at all, but lots of weird little ideas. So,
And do you imagine any of those weird little ideas will grow legs, as it were?
That's pretty much the only thing. Yeah, that's the only way I ever write. One of the weird little ideas kind of sort of waves at me, and I go, okay, do that, and that's it. And that's for me. That's how you write music, and you just can't. You don't stop. You always stay open to it, and you do loads of really bad shite, and then you eventually kind of you see something in one of them, and that's it, and that's it. Yeah. So I think there's lots of really bad stuff in my phone right now and in my computer, but some of it will be good eventually. So
good stuff. I should just say retrospectively, that was sort of, kind of ish a question from Glenn John Merton, another hot press reader with a question. It was a bit like that. That was the gist of it.
Deadly.
Pretty much. Okay, in a newfound land, you're free. Let's hear it.
Good song.
Sad, yeah, but beautiful. It's one of those songs that really people just got to stop and let it do its thing. How are you feeling right now?
Cool.
How has this been? Have I put you through a living hell, or?
No, I mean, I'm getting used to the format of this particular night, but it's interesting.
Is this something you would naturally do, go back to your earlier work and kind of re-examine?
Well, this particular album is the one that I'm not really a reliable narrator for my own work in general, but especially with this one, because I'm so subjective about it, and it's just tied up with so many emotions that I find that it's actually more powerful when it's a bit messier, and sometimes I can hear myself holding on to ideas out of this kind of fear When I listen to it, and there's moments where I think it fails, and it could have actually gone further, and it could have relaxed and gone into a more interesting place. And then there's other moments where I'm really kind of I'm just really happy that it exists when I listen to it. But it's so long ago now that it's like, I mean, I think, yeah, what is it, 2013? So it's like eight years ago. So like, don't you become a new person every 7 years? Isn't that a thing?
I've heard that theory, yeah. I don't think it's ever happened to me. Maybe I'm too close to the subject, but yeah.
I don't know.
But it is, I mean, it's a significant period of time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's interesting to hear, but I wouldn't return to this one that often because it's just kind of, it feels like a little time capsule that I don't really want to disturb or something.
Yes.
But it's been nice to return to it.
Okay. Well, hopefully not too painful. That's what I was aiming at there. It does end on an up note. This album. I mean, an album obviously there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of processing pain. In terms of the subject, and not that Rhythm Composer isn't about that. It very much is about that, continuing that, but in a much more, I guess, with a more optimistic kind of feel. You're kind of almost
the Tralfamadorians.
Those guys again. But you're kind of, is it? Are you singing about the creative process, and maybe the healing that you're getting through?
I mean, this is actually my favorite song on the album because it's so silly, and we actually tried to play it live a few times and it wasn't very good live, so we stopped playing it because the show around this time was super intense, and it was all revolving around the waves and the kind of that really intense energy, and that, you know, that kind of arpeggiated synth thing, and then the other songs were in that same, like Passing a Message had much darker chords than the version that I played tonight and stuff. But when we played this song live, it was always like, oh, this is like bursting the balloon of the show, and it just didn't really work. But on the album, I listened to it today, and I was like, it really works because for me, it sums up. If it didn't end the album, I would just never want to be here right now talking about this album, because it's a tragicomedy, you know, and that's what Slaughterhouse-Five is. It's a tragicomedy, and you know, he's not taking the piss out of stuff. He's more laughing at it on a deep level, and that's what I wanted to do with this album as well. I wanted to make something with humor in it. And this song is just ridiculous. It's like I had just gotten an 808 drum machine for the first time in my life, and I became obsessed with it. So I decided to write a song called Rhythm Composer, because it says Rhythm Composer on the drum machine. And that's all the song is. It's just like, it talks about the drum machine. But then in the middle it sort of says, but my BPM got an MRI. So it kind of like becomes a bit more of slightly more a different allegorical kind of weird thing. And it kind of gets rid of any of the kind of there are moments on the record where I think it sort of slightly becomes like there's moral teachings starting to happen on the album, where there's ideas that there's a knowing narrator or something, and this completely depletes all that. It just kind of makes you realize it's all just a joke, and everyone's holding hands, and we're holding hands with the Tralfamadorians, and we're in the sky, and yeah, the Yellow Submarine is there. So.
And I've really got to read Slaughterhouse-Five again. I did read it when I was a kid, funnily enough.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, fantastic book. Okay, well, on an up note, I guess, Awayland concludes with Rhythm Composer. We're going to get one more live song, right? And it's going to be a live rendition of...
A cheeky rendition, yeah.
A cheeky rendition of a song you'll already have heard in its studio incarnation this evening. But before we get to that, let's get to Rhythm Composer, Villagers.
So sad.
I know it's a donkey, but why?
Why not?
It's an excellent answer. Best answer of the night.
Yeah, I can't remember. I just the playing in that song blew my mind all over again. So I just want to give a special shout out to Mr. James Byrne, Mr. Tom McLaughlin, and Danny Snow, and Cormac Kern, and everyone who, and also Mr. Ian McNulty, who was engineering it, who couldn't believe the hours that we put in. I remember him just going, "Do you never go to bed?" when we were recording this album, and me and Tommy were like, "No, we don't." But yeah, it was really
I think a round of applause for the band.
Yo!
And all involved, and almost time to wrap things up, but we got another song before that point, and also just congratulations on Fever Dreams.
Thank you. Cheers.
Another great record, and obviously the next obvious question is what are the plans now that things are hopefully opening up again? Lots of shows, or what's
Yeah, we're just going to tour a lot. We just did the in-store tour, myself and Kev Corcoran. We played 10 shows in 6 days around the UK, just around the album release, no masks. And then came back to Ireland, and we were planning on doing like a guerrilla gig somewhere, but we didn't. We tried to do it outside Tower Records, but no one would let us. And it was just weird. It was totally surreal to do that, because it was just like literally just the next island over, and we've just come back from playing all these shows, and it was amazing. But and now we're going to do full band stuff. Yeah, so I can't wait. We just finished rehearsals there, and it's sounding really, really great. I'm just trying to figure out how the hell we're going to do it live, but it's getting there eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something online where you guys were just standing in a room, sort of rehearsing stuff.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah, I know. Well, we don't.
What do you do?
Well, the undertones, yeah. The three guys in Derry, they do the rehearsing in the room.
You do Zoom rehearsals?
We just turn up. Me and Damien just show up, play. It's fine. It's grand. When are the shows happening?
You punks.
Well, that's what we are. We are old punks. Yeah.
I guess I was more of a mod.
Okay, well, listen, thanks so much.
Cool, thank you.
It's been great chatting. And just before I wind this up, you're going to do a little song for us. But before that, I should say thanks to Hot Press, thanks to Mark, and someone just been shot. Thanks to Mark, everybody at Hot Press, everybody here at the Grand Social. Thanks to all of you for coming along and being so nice and respectful and polite and quiet. It's very, very good. That wasn't patronising at all. So this series, by the way, is produced in association with Aidan Shortall of Up Close and Personal Promotions, and it is supported by the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht Sport and Media. So that's everybody thanked, I think, and if not, it's me. What did you expect? No. Thanks to everyone for making this possible. I really enjoyed it. Cheers.
Savannah scatters and the seabird sings. So why should we fear what travel brings? What were we hoping to get out of this? Some kind of momentary bliss. I waited for something, and something died. So I waited for nothing, and nothing arrived. It's our dearest ally. It's our closest friend. It's our darkest blackout. It's our final end. My dear sweet nothing, let's start anew.
from here on in, it's just me and you. I waited for something, and something died. So I waited for nothing, and nothing. Well, I guess it's over. I guess it's begun. It's a loser's table, but we've already won. It's a funny battle, it's a constant game. I guess I was busy when nothing came. I guess I was busy. Guess I was busy. I was busy. All the dirt and the worry left when I realized that I knew it all. How it started and how it's gonna end. It's a judgment call, I don't need no proof. It's a judgment call, the writing's on my wall. It's a judgment, and come if you get behind it, and if you wear this long white shawl, 'cause we're the clean and the right and the chosen ones. It's a judgment call, I don't need no proof. It's a judgment call, the writing's on my wall. It's a judgment, and we gotta keep the wheels in motion, and we gotta get the kids before they grow. God forbid they retain their sense of wonder, their sense of wonder, their sense of wonder. Now I don't need to think for myself, no I don't need to think at all. When the team says go, I go. It's a judgment call, it's a judgment call. No, we don't need to think for ourselves, no we don't need to think at all. When the screen says go, we go. It's a judgment call, it's a judgment call. And I believe this land is my land, and you are not the same at all. 'Cause the man in the sky has got my back, and I don't need no proof. The writing's on my wall. No, I don't need no proof. The writing's on my wall. No, I don't need no proof. And so you better start running, it's a judgment. 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 I've lost